right. Welcome to season 3 of the Sustainable Act podcast. So, we've taken a huge break from posting episodes and interviewing guests, but I so appreciate the community that we have built and those that stayed and continue to support me in this platform. To kick off our newest season, I am pleased to announce today's guest on the show, Laurel Tamayo. Laurel is an impact producer passionate about communicating the climate crisis through film and TV. She has worked on impact campaigns for Down to Earth with Zac Efron Season 2 and I Am Greta, inspiring audiences to take action on climate change. She has also worked on the Hollywood Climate Summit, which is an annual gathering of the entertainment industry to address climate change, and the Good Energy Playbook, which is a guide for screenwriters on how they can weave climate change into their films and TV shows. Currently, she is in the Harvard Executive Education Program working on her Public Leadership Certificate, where she was awarded the Bacon Climate Leadership Scholarship. Oh my goodness, Laurel, thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Yeah, so I first met you through the Hollywood Climate Summit, and ever since I've been your biggest fan because you're so
Oh,
inspiring and you've done so much for climate and sustainability, and yeah, I'm just excited to get in all the tea with you about your journey and yeah, everything. How are
yeah.
you before we get into
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited that it's Earth Month.
Mhm.
I'm next week I have a couple events that I'm going to, and this past week I also got to attend a climate cafe for the first time. I'm not sure if you've ever been to those.
No, what
It's
is a climate
basically
cafe?
Yeah, a climate cafe is just a space where people can talk about their emotions in relation to climate change, talk about any eco-anxiety that they have, talk about any struggles, any solutions people may have, or ways to kind of fight off eco-anxiety. And it's just like the place that I had it was a, a tea house, and they had like candles and snacks, and it was just a very calming experience. Everyone was like sitting on the ground, and everyone was open-minded and talked very honestly, and it was a very cool experience.
That's so awesome. I think that is so like we need more of that. Just that community and healing aspect of like coming
Mhm.
together and sharing how you're feeling and oh my gosh, so was that the first time you went to one of these?
That is the first time I've gone to one of these. I think they're getting more popular in the US, I would say. And
Yeah.
then even Gunjin, who worked on the Hollywood Climate Summit last year, also hosted one. Not sure. Do you know that if they have those in Canada?
I've never heard of them. I've never heard of like the climate cafe like concept entirely, but I'm not sure maybe if we have it or not here. But I do
Mhm.
know like we need more community here in Canada. Like I think that's something that's
Mm.
been missing. There is a community, but I think just like hearing this concept of coming together and just healing together, I
Yeah.
have not heard of anything remotely close. But that being said, Vancouver is very like green and there's a lot of cool people that yeah, so I'm just not tapped into that community if there is one.
Maybe you can start one if
Yeah.
there isn't one.
Yeah, I know. Um, that would be a cool idea. In addition to all the other things we're doing.
Yeah,
And
don't take on too much.
yeah, I know. Like even just starting up the podcast again, like in a way,
Mhm.
this is healing for me because, it's how I've started my community. It's how I met you and like all the people of Hollywood Climate Summit and just like people around the world that I've had the privilege of building these connections with. And yeah, that just having that community is like I think healing is our theme here for this interview
Yeah.
episode. Because it can be very lonely. It can be, I think, scary. It can, especially like with the anxiety around the climate crisis and just experiencing all these different things in our own backyards. Like I know LA's been going through a lot. Like I've just been hearing and seeing. It's like the rain and the just weather patterns and
Hmm.
scary times.
Yeah, it's crazy. I live in Burbank in LA, and there was snow on the mountains near my apartment, which is like really rare.
Yeah.
And so it was just crazy,
You still have
crazy
snow or is
weather.
it
Not now.
no, no,
It was
okay,
like
okay.
last month,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
I
still, it was.
saw I saw Sam's pictures on Instagram and I'm like, whoa, that's starting to look like BC with our snowy mountains. And that's scary because like it's supposed to be like a desert. Like
Yeah.
yeah. No, no, so I think like yeah, for me I think the podcast like just getting back into this and and just being kind to myself that if I cannot stay as consistent as I used to be with, in like recording episodes and getting it out there like, before when I started this during the pandemic, I had like so many number of episodes and that would entail a season, but now I'm just trying to like be kind to myself. I think we should all like kind of
Yeah.
do that. It's like whatever we could give and not to put too much pressure on ourselves and how are we
Hmm.
benefiting from that. And so that's so awesome that you got to go to a climate cafe and hopefully you get to go to more when,
Hmm.
time allows and when you feel like you need it and build that community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so I want to start right from the beginning of your journey. Because I don't think I ever actually asked you this. Like maybe I don't think I have, but what inspired you to get into this like climate and environmental work in this space? What was that moment?
It's funny because I was born and raised in Hawaii, and you would think that if I was raised around beautiful nature like that, I would have grown up with this natural sense of caring for the environment. But honestly, my family didn't do that many outdoorsy things. I didn't grow up that way. And so it really wasn't until my senior year of high school when I took AP Environmental Science. And it's funny because that's considered like a slacker AP at my school,
Mm,
but I had done so horribly in AP Physics the year before that my Asian parents let me take AP Environmental Science my senior year. And I didn't think too much of that class either until we watched a documentary in it called Racing Extinction that showed the connection between humans and how they're impacting species around the world. And there was one scene in particular where a man he recorded bird calls and he played one of a bird on Kauai called the Oo. And he said, "This is a mating call, but it's one that will never be answered because he is the last of his species." And I just remember being like, "What?" How had I never heard of this? Like, because I'm from Hawaii, I was like, how had I never heard of this? Like, why wasn't anyone doing anything to stop this injustice? And it brought me back to the story of my great grandfather. He had immigrated from Japan to Kauai. His family was working in pineapple fields, and he ended up being a Japanese school teacher. And he was about to be principal when the bombing of Pearl Harbor happened. And because of that, all of the Japanese Americans and Japanese people on the mainland US were put into internment camps because a lot of Americans didn't trust them. And in Hawaii, they considered doing this, but there was such a big Japanese population that they ended up not doing that. They ended up only putting people who were in leadership positions into internment camps. And so my great grandfather actually was considered a leader because he was about to be the principal. And so he was going to be one of the tens of thousands of Japanese Americans that were put in internment camps for years. But instead, a Portuguese police officer who knew him stood up for him and said, he's a good man. He's like loyal to America. And because of that, he ended up not having to be in an internment camp and he got to stay with his family. And
wow.
because of that one person who like stood up for him, my great grandfather didn't have to experience the consequences of someone else's actions. And so I guess this like connection in my mind with like environmental injustices and that I was just like, what if I could be a voice that spoke for all these species going extinct and spoke for people who are being affected by climate change first. And so that film alone motivated me to research more about environmental issues and climate change. And that's what helped me decide to major in environmental science and policy and minor in documentary film in college, because I was like, if this one film could have such a big impact on me, I want to make more films like that or be involved in that kind of work. And so that's how I ended up doing that.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting to be like, oh my God, like that is incredible. Just the connection you made there and like just what you took from that one experience, but then multiple experiences and how it's all interconnected and the intersectionality of it all and then what you've managed to do since then is just like incredible. That was just like that's a beautiful story. Like I wasn't expecting and I'm surprised I've never asked you before because that was just yeah, that was beautiful. And um like so with all that being said, like have you produced sorry. Have you produced documentaries? Have you worked in documentary?
So it's funny because the first few years of college, that's really what I was set on doing, was
Mm,
actually creating the films.
mm-hmm.
And then we had a lot of guest speakers that would talk about how burnt out they were and
Yeah.
how they didn't have money for their films, how they're so sick of their films by the end of it. And I was like, man, maybe I don't have, maybe I'm not cut out for this work. And so when I was studying abroad in New Zealand, I went to a film festival and there was a woman there that was an impact producer. And I was like, what is that? I've never heard of that job before. And she explained to me that an impact producer is someone who works on a project, usually a film or a TV show, to help it create social impact. And
Mm-hmm.
this usually happens after the show or film is done through creating a strategy, a theory of change, organizing screenings and Q&As, and using social media. And I was like, this sounds perfect for me because, I don't think I could actually make films, but I still believe in the impact of them. And so this really sounds cool. And I loved using social media at the time too. So it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of made sense. And so that's where I first heard of the job that I'm currently in.
Yeah, yeah, that was actually what I was gonna get into, like impact producing and um so you kind of explained what an impact producer is. How would you describe a day in your life as an impact producer?
It changes every day, which I love. You could be, if you're in the beginning of an impact campaign, you might be creating a theory of change, which is like figuring out what your ultimate goal is and breaking that down into like how are you going to actually measure that? What are the activities you're going to do? What are the resources you're going to make?
Mm-hmm.
And then actually making those resources, having calls with partners or educators about how to actually go about making resources, organizing screenings, and like connecting with people to be on panels for it,
Mm-hmm.
um, making assets for social media. There's just like so many
Yeah, different
different things.
layers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like always different, which I think that seems like
Mhm.
it keeps you kind of on the edge of your seat and like always learning and growing. And I think like as we
Mhm.
see new campaigns come out and trends, like it's constantly evolving and changing, which is like I think the cool part
Mhm.
about it, right? Would you agree? Like,
Yeah, I like that it changes every day, and I think in this job you have to be able to adapt and,
mhm.
figure out understand new tools. Like I've heard of more people using ChatGPT, so like that's also
Mhm.
something me and my coworkers will sometimes use to help
Yeah.
us. Um,
Yeah, I know. I
yeah.
just discovered that like literally last weekend, and I was like, whoa, blown away.
Yeah, it's some stuff is actually helpful. I think some stuff isn't as helpful, but I think
Yeah.
if you know exactly what to ask it, if you're
Yeah.
specific enough, then it's helpful.
Yeah, and it's all part of it, right? Because I've been seeing a lot of like TikToks about ChatGPT, in terms of like it's not replacing work, but instead it should be seen as a tool to help with,
Hmm.
with your work. And no matter what kind of industry you're in or what kind of work you're trying to do, that I hope, I think some people are seeing it as like more of a threat, as people are going to lose their
Mm,
jobs because now we have this AI function. But I think, if we start to learn how to use it right, that it can help, especially with, I think, coming back to like impact and campaigning, and depending on like the message you're putting out there might be different ways of exploring, and it's always evolving. So just trying to learn using like the current tools. I don't know.
yeah.
I don't, not like an impact producer, so I have no idea what I'm saying, but I think it'd be really cool to explore how like if someone that's listening is interested in pursuing this like sort of career, or job as an impact producer, what would you recommend to them? What would you say the first step should be?
Yeah, so I remember that I it was like the summer before senior year of college, and I was kind of freaking out because being an impact producer seemed like this faraway dream, and I, it was very niche. So when I was looking up internships in impact producing, nothing was really coming up. And so I had reached back out to the woman who first told me about impact producing, and I was like, can you give me some advice and like and tell me about your experience? And she did this awesome thing of messaging the Global Impact Producers Alliance, which at the time was a Google group with hundreds of different impact producers around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, what advice would you give to a college student that wants to be in this field? And so many people responded with resources like Doc Society's toolkit, and like even job opportunities. And so that's how I actually ended up getting my first fellowship, was because the co-founder had messaged and said, oh, she should consider a fellowship here. And so I, yeah, I've learned that connections are so important, because when I felt very lost and I didn't know where to go in terms of like how to go about becoming an impact producer, I was like code calling a bunch of people on LinkedIn, finding out who were the impact producers of documentary films that I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, I would say like 80% of them actually answered me, which was great. And we would get on a video call or a phone call, and then they ended up keeping me in mind for future opportunities and recommending me for jobs or sending me jobs that they saw. And so that's how I've gotten every single job that I've ever had, actually, is
Mm-hmm.
through someone that I had code called that ended up looking out for me, which is really amazing. And I'm so grateful that that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of how I went about it. I definitely, it was hard in the beginning because no one in my family has ever done a job that's creative, and so it's kind of scary for them. They saw entertainment as like this unstable thing, and they were like, you're not going to find a job and all of this. And so I understand where they're coming from. It's like they don't understand the industry, but for me it was very hard to hear that from them and not feel
Mm-hmm.
supported by my family. And so through all these code calls and these people who ended up becoming like mentors and friends to me, that was like a support system that I
Mm-hmm.
came to rely on and has really helped me throughout my career.
Yeah, it just speaks volumes about the community, and then building your community and having
Hmm.
those connections. And I'm really happy for you. I'm glad that it worked out, and I hope people that are listening take that as a positive, I think, feeling towards this, because it can be I guess, like, what's the word? Not like scary, or you know I don't know, the pressure of it. Whatever industry you're going into, whatever job you're pursuing, it can be. I'm losing the word that I'm trying to think of, but yeah, a lot of pressure. But yeah, just like even just the fact that you were cold calling and it worked out for you. And so like to not be afraid of doing that. That's really
Hmm.
inspiring story as well. And speaking of inspiring, what areas of this work inspires you or like gets you the most excited if you have?
Ooh. So right now, half my job is working on impact campaigns and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of work. The other half of my job is consulting studios and writers on how to integrate climate-friendly behaviors on screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I work at RARE, which is a behavior change organization. And so they've done years of research to find the behaviors that are at the intersection of high potential for adoptability and high carbon emission reduction. And so, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of individual behaviors, those things were eating more plant-based, reducing food waste, driving an electric vehicle. And so, we really focus on getting those things shown on screen
Mm-hmm.
because another thing they found was that the best predictor for whether people will take climate action or not is not political orientation, it's not climate concern, it's actually whether they think the people around them are taking action and if
Mm-hmm.
those people think that they should be taking action. And so really normalizing these behaviors on screen is like the
Mm-hmm.
goal of the Rare Entertainment Lab, which I'm part of. And so that's been really cool because I've been seeing more and more climate content on
Mm-hmm.
screen. So like there's extrapolations and
Mm-hmm.
unstable and it's just becoming slowly but surely like there's more climate storytelling and climate solutions and climate friendly behaviors on screen. And so I
Yeah.
think that it's exciting um, to see all of that movement. And there are a lot of there are a couple organizations that are also doing a similar thing, getting more climate stories on screen. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's been fun seeing that movement grow.
Yeah, I feel like we are on this like cusp of this new sort of generation of like content and writers because now more and more resources are coming and more people are talking about climate storytelling, and I love that you talked about like the behavioral science behind it too, and that's so true. Like it is about seeing if your peers are also, you know, going about this like new, I guess, culture, this culture shift,
Hmm.
and also like just how major the influences of, you know, seeing your favorite actors or like the cast on your,
Hmm.
you know, whether children are watching it or older folks are watching content, when you're watching what's happening on screen, that does influence your perspectives, and I think that all is interconnected. So that's really cool. That sounds very exciting, just getting to be part of this like like I guess moment in our generation and just history in general where like this is becoming the new norm. But
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like we have a long way to go with that, but it's still like all the work that's happening right now and that you've been part of, which is really exciting to see it unfold. And
Yeah, I this isn't something that my team worked on, and I don't think I can say, I won't say what studio or anything, but I went to a live taping just last night, and it was for a comedy series, and they had a whole storyline about EVs, and it was
mm,
so cool. Like it was so funny. It didn't take a like mentioning EVs didn't take anything away from the story, just added to it.
yeah.
And on top of that, all of the people in the audience were actually shuttled in on electric vans too. So
Oh
it's like
wow.
on screen and behind the scenes,
Yeah.
um, making that effort. So that was
Yeah.
just very, very cool to see.
Yeah, that is really interesting because it really shows like you know, you're walking the walk when it comes to like
Hmm.
doing these different actions. And yeah, I won't get too much into it because I feel like we could talk forever about climate storytelling because it's clearly a passion of both of ours, and like,
Yeah.
you know, there's so much um like before we kind of end that subject, if people are interested in learning more about these initiatives or how, what is happening around climate storytelling, what do you recommend they check out? Is there anything that you would suggest?
Yeah. So if you're a writer, you can always message the Rare Entertainment Lab, and we're here to help. We're here to consult, provide resources. There's also the Good Energy Playbook, and that's also free online. I know the NRDC Rewrite the Future also has a fellowship. The Hollywood Climate Summit has the Pitch Fest, which is you write a story that relates to climate, and then you get to pitch it to different executives and agents. And so there are a lot of opportunities out there for
Yeah.
climate storytelling right now.
Amazing. Yeah. I will make sure that that gets posted somewhere so that, people can have access to that list of resources. Um, okay, so I want to get into like, you know, away from all this work talk, but on the topic of that, you juggle many different balls. I wear different many like hats, whatever the phrase we want to go with all the stuff that you're balancing. How do you make time to balance work and life?
I have to say, I am getting better at doing that. I
Yeah.
don't think I was very good at that when I first graduated from college, working weekends and not having boundaries. And it was also partially like I was fine doing it to a point. Like I was like, I care so much about climate change and I need to, do
Hmm.
overtime because I need to
The
solve
world
the
is
crisis.
burning.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so that was not a healthy way of thinking though,
Yeah.
because of course you're gonna burn out and then you won't
And
be
you're
able
one
to be as good of a
person.
person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something you probably have felt that too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, the guilt, the climate guilt, and like I think it's put on a lot on like our generation too, and it's like at some point you're
Hmm.
like, wait a second, like that's not all on, it can't be us, like it has to be the people that hold the power and wealth that can really turn this around very quickly, but and just being kind to ourselves like we said in the beginning, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, fortunately, I've learned how to better set boundaries and,
Mhm.
like what works for me. I need a certain amount of sleep to be not
Yeah.
grumpy. And
Yeah.
so um, I think it's still a learning process, but I will say that I'm very grateful that the job that I'm in right now, they are very respectful of boundaries, and
Mhm.
that helps me have a better work-life balance so that, after 6 p.m. I can go do a game night with friends or go on a walk, um,
Mhm.
and go hiking on the weekends. And so I think learning, also like learning how to set boundaries, that's something I had to do. And I was able to learn through this coaching fellowship, which I
Mhm.
can talk about later. But it was a leadership coaching fellowship where I got to talk one on one with a coach and
Mhm.
really just tell her any issues I was having in work and life. And she would, validate my feelings and give
Oh.
me tools to figure out any problems I was having. And so I think part of why I also would not have a good balance before when I was like right out of college is there's also like some imposter syndrome I think that I
Yeah.
had. And so it's like, oh, I need to work extra hard to like
Yeah.
prove myself. And so kind of learning to get over that was something I had to do.
That's so cool to hear about so it's a life coach, you said, or a fellowship.
Yeah, so it's a yeah, it's like a life coach. I think technically we call them leadership coaches.
Mm.
It was for specifically women who worked in social impact. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
um, people came from a lot of different backgrounds, like a lot of different nonprofit work. And
Mhm.
so it was cool getting to their opportunities to meet the other fellows that were getting coached and then I got
Mhm.
to have the one-on-one time with my coach, and that was over a 6 month period. And so she was really able to see me go from someone who had like a bad work-life balance where at like 6 a.m. I would like wake up and look at my phone to make sure that my boss hadn't texted me to do anything.
Yeah.
Um, to at the end of it, I was like, I started rollerblading again, and I was like finding time to do things that I loved that I had kind of pushed aside before.
Mhm.
And I ended up, um, being able to set boundaries and uh, speak up for a situation that wasn't great. And so, yeah, it was life changing,
I
honestly, for
love
me.
that. I love that. And you know what? It just kind of reminded me of I started therapy just recently, and I think it was more in the winter time when I was like, okay, you know what? I'm ready to like actually go, because it's like something that I've been thinking about for years, and then you just like life goes so fast and just like constantly
Yeah,
like and I feel like you and I are similar in that sense. We're like we got to do this and this, and we got to
yeah.
keep going. We got to like and imposter syndrome is so real, and it's like when you look at it, there's so many other people that are like similar to our age that are totally on a
Mhm.
different life path, and but for some reason we're just extra hard on ourselves. And I don't know, maybe it's like being raised by parents that have didn't have those same opportunities growing up, and we feel this
Mm,
need to, it could be so many different layers. And I yeah, and so one of my sessions with my therapist was about this too, like the same thing, where I was like, I'm like, there's some nights I can't sleep because there's so many things I want to do, and I don't know what, like, I feel like there's this meme where it's the guy with like his like board with all the suspects, and he's like looking crazy, and he's like crossing stuff, and he's, I don't know if you know that meme. I can't
I
remember.
don't think so,
Oh,
but
you probably do. You
I
probably
think I
do. He's just
maybe.
like, yeah, he's like look at his board of like all the red tape and or lines or whatever. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll show you after. But anyways,
Okay, yeah, send it to
that's
me.
how I felt, because I felt like this crazy person,
Mm,
my hair on a mess, and like, my
mm,
big board of like all the things I want to do, and feeling like something is wrong with me, because I think I hit the wall, and that's where I was like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm gonna go
mm,
talk to someone about it, because I talked to my mom and I
mm,
talked to my partner, but it's like somehow I don't feel like I'm untangling, all these different,
mm,
and I think again, you and I feel like are kind of similar in that sense, where there are many layers and things that we want to achieve, and they're not exactly like
mm,
this one job, and then we're happy with that
mm,
job. Maybe that's like a generational thing too, because I've been
mm,
hearing, like watching TikToks and stuff, like people talk about that, where our generation isn't really like the kind that's like, yeah, we're good with this one job and we're gonna do it until we retire.
mm,
And how do you like balance all that? And so yeah, it was like I told her about all the different things that I'm like wanting to do, and I started doing too. It's not just me just talking about it, but like I started all these different things and projects and
mm,
side hustles, and like basically asking at the end, like, is something wrong with me? Like, why am I like this? And what she told me, which was so validating, like so like therapeutic, which makes sense for a therapy session, but was like you, it's a good problem to have. It's good that you have all these
mm.
different things you want to do, and you have like more than one passions, and it's better than like being stuck and not having anything in life that you want to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was like, whoa. Like, I don't know why, but just that, like, I guess it validated like all my feelings towards like all these different things I want to
Mm,
do. But I was just like, whoa, I didn't think of it like that. Like,
mm.
it's good. It's actually a good problem to have like multiple things. And like what you're saying, like you got back into rollerblading. Is this something like you used to do a lot? Is that, I'm assuming?
It was something that I did actually no, something I did as a kid, but I was like, oh, I now that I'm in California and there's
Yeah.
all those like there's like sidewalks on the beaches. They don't have that in Hawaii. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna go like rollerblading by the beach. And,
Yeah.
I yeah, so it was also kind of nostalgic because it was something that I did as
Your
a
inner
kid.
child is
But
healing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
and
like,
I was gonna say the way you were saying you love watching all the things that I'm up to. I love watching your stories and seeing all the things that you're up to and all the events you're
oh,
going to and all the things you're speaking at. Like I am also like so proud of you for all of those things. Like I know we're like around the same age and I'm like, wait, I feel like we actually are like doing a lot.
you dude, we need to chill.
Yeah.
We need to like live. I know I have these conversations with my partner sometimes where I'm like, why aren't we normal, like 20 something year olds, like just partying all the time and not caring? Like, cause like he's the same in that sense. And I think that's why we like clicked so well. Cause like we're both very
Mm,
like driven and like, but then
yeah.
sometimes I feel like I feel like a boring person in their 40s because I have my routines and I like work and I hustle and I grind and I do
Yeah.
like to have fun, but it's like I'm not. But again, there's nothing wrong with either, being either or.
Hmm.
It's just I think we are hard on ourselves sometimes when we're like we're not
Yeah.
like achieving X, Y, and Z all the time, or if we're having periods of like being in a
Hmm.
rut. Oh my God, like don't even get me started when you're in a rut and then you feel
Yeah.
like the world is falling apart because you can't
Hmm.
motivate yourself to just like or like that's why I think coming back to like I'm working on that a lot too, is being kind to myself because
Hmm.
it's hard. It's easy to say but it's hard to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Um, and I'm so glad that you're going to therapy. I actually just started therapy recently too, and
Yes,
it's like,
virtual high five.
yeah. Um, I think it's good to have someone to talk to that's like on your side and they're not biased. I think
Yeah,
it's like a good
yeah,
way, because like if you talk to your partner, your family, it's like they already have certain opinions and they're not obviously therapists,
yeah,
so they can't help in that way. And so yeah, I
yeah.
think it's good
Great.
to talk about it too.
Yeah, and like if you're anything like me in the sense that I'm a people pleaser and I talk to like my mom about everything and I talk to my partner about everything, but at the end of the day sometimes I feel guilty because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm just like, over loading
Mm,
you with information and thoughts, and they never want, like both of them have never made me feel like I'm like overloading them, and they're always great listeners, but I
mhm.
think like there's just something, it's coming back to boundaries, and like there's something just, it's healthy to have someone that you can go talk to and that's literally their job, and then the unbiased
Yeah.
opinion I think is like huge as well, because obviously I think your loved ones are going to support you, like I hope. And
Mhm,
but yeah, even like just hearing that, like one thing that my therapist said about it's a good problem to have. Like if my mom said that or if my
mhm.
partner said that, I don't think I would have I don't know,
Taking it
digested, yeah,
to
taken it
yeah.
as, or like have that like eye-opening kind of moment
Mm,
as I
mhm,
did, because maybe sometimes it's just a certain person, and that's so not being said
mhm.
like um there's some things that like somebody says to you, like a stranger on the street that clicks with you, and it's just like that light bulb moment. And so yeah, I think there's beauty in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's been your like a positive outcome from you going into therapy, like as, if you want to talk about it, like what do you find that has
Yeah.
helped?
Mm. I'm like still very new. Like we've
Yeah,
only had a
I am
couple
too.
sessions, so
Yeah,
I'm
same.
like
I think I only had
maybe next
3.
I'm like maybe I'll get back to you on this question.
Yeah, yeah,
I
no,
think
of
it is
course.
nice to talk. It is nice to talk to someone and just like getting your feelings validated. I think
Yeah,
by someone who's like not your partner or your mom,
yeah,
because yeah, I feel like, oh yeah, of course they're gonna tell me what I want to hear, but if it's a
yeah,
therapist validating me, I'm like, okay.
yeah. You know what I've actually just like right now thought of too? the difference of like venting, because like I vent a lot,
Mm,
especially when you like work with like a lot of different people or in this
mm-hmm,
space. Like there's just, and it's healthy to vent, but I've noticed that because I've only had like 3 sessions too, I think, 3 or 4,
mm-hmm,
like not that many, but because I know that, like, okay, I only have this hour and it
mm.
costs me, like even if
Yeah.
like insurance covers it, I have like a cap. So it's like
Mm-hmm,
I prioritize that session, and whereas at home, like I would just vent and vent and vent, and there's like, and that I
mm-hmm,
think comes back to that overloading and boundaries. But
mm-hmm,
I think I've just started doing this automatically where I'm like, okay, like, you know what, this person or this situation doesn't deserve this time, like
mm-hmm.
because the energy that you're putting towards
Yeah.
that situation or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, how can I really utilize this time? Or sometimes I think I had
Mm-hmm.
one session where I just talked for like 50 minutes, and then she's like, okay, well, I don't know if I said time, but that's okay because that's why you're here. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's something I realized, like I really which I need to try doing more of at home, and not give my energy like to things that
Mm.
don't deserve it, in my off time. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, okay. So that was really no, but that's it was really inspiring to hear about like your journey of like learning how to balance both life and work, because I feel like there's a lot to take away from that, and I've also experienced that too. Going from like working in film to more of a 9 to 5, it was really like challenging to just kind of get used to this new where I'm like, oh my God, I have a whole evening to myself now, like where I didn't ever have that before. And then that 9 to 5 end up consuming my whole sort of like, because I allowed it to consume the rest, because it's the
Mm.
space that we work in sustainability. It's what we talked about before, the guilt. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
sustainability doesn't stop and climate change doesn't stop. And
Mhm.
but where do you kind of draw the line so that you can take care of
Mhm.
yourself? And
Mhm.
so I'm hoping that, not hoping, but I'm setting the intention for this year 2023 and this Earth Month to really like make sure that I am, setting those boundaries and like you
Mhm.
give it your all, but you do deserve breaks and spending time on your
Yeah.
hobbies. Me going on my
Mhm.
trip is, I think, a great example because I
Mhm.
haven't gone on like a proper vacation in years. And um
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think like those breaks and vacations, like traveling, that will spark more creativity and help you be better
Yeah.
at your job, rather
Yeah.
than just like, working through working or like working all the time and
Hmm.
um burning yourself out, and then you're tired when you work and you're not as productive, but you think, oh, I have to
Exactly.
keep going. But yeah, breaks are important.
I agree. And it's like I think it's so worth the investment too, and just and just taking time, like even to do those like small things that bring you joy, like rollerblading and like going
Yeah.
for long walks and things like, yeah, there's just a lot of. But speaking of that, like I've been following your hiking series, and I wanted to talk to you about it because I think it's so fitting. You have this goal, what is it, 52?
Yeah, I'm doing the 52 hike challenge. So I just have to do 52 hikes in 1 year. And so that's about one hike a week. And so every weekend I've been going on a new hike in
Mhm.
LA or near LA. And yeah, it's been really good. It's something that I look forward to every weekend. And
Yeah.
since I've only lived in LA for 2 years, I've been getting to go to a lot of places I've never been before, and a lot of hikes that honestly don't even look like LA. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
this kind of looks like Hawaii.
Oh,
And
nice.
so yeah. Um so it's really fun, and I have this app called Seek where you can like use your camera and point it at like flowers or
Oh,
birds, and it'll identify what they are. And so it's kind of like Pokemon Go, but in real life.
like nature, the
Um,
nature version.
yeah, nature Pokemon Go. And so me and my partner love, like, you get like badges and things
Oh,
for
nice.
collecting a certain amount.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's been fun doing that on hikes too, and learning about the different species that live in that area.
That is so
So
cool because you're like literally out there, like on the ground learning versus like just Googling it or reading in a
mhm.
textbook. That's
Yeah, and it's actually it's Seek by iNaturalist, and so I think all of the data that we're collecting is like citizen science, and it's actually going somewhere to
oh,
scientists that
wow.
study them. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, I have to look into that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I love hiking and then I
Hmm.
realized like this last year, like 2022, I barely hike. I think I went on one
Mm.
like I used to be a big hiker like even before that
Hmm.
and that was like me when I first kind of started my job and even while I was still working, it was like the transition between film and then a new job where I was like getting into hiking and then I prioritized that and I would go like every day off, every weekend. It was like I craved it. It
Mm.
was like I had a checklist going
Mm.
and I like made a lot of friends from hiking too. Like
Hmm.
I literally was in Facebook groups, like hiking groups and like
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cool.
because if I didn't have like a friend I knew um
Mm.
that could go with me and I didn't want to go alone
Hmm.
and do a big hike,
Yeah.
like I literally made friends. Like it was just like and then last year I realized like the whole summer, spring like went by
Hmm.
and I didn't even like have time. And so something
Hmm.
I am hoping to once it's nicer in Vancouver, like today's
Mm.
sunny, like you could see, but it's
Yeah.
uh yeah, hopefully the rain stops soon and then because this is not fun hiking in the rain. But I've been so inspired by your series because I'm like this year's the
Oh.
year I'm gonna get back into hiking
Hmm.
and you'll have to come to BC so we can hike together because
Yes,
there's so many
I will visit you
nice
sometime. You
mountains
can take me
here.
on a hike.
Yeah, there's tons like and it's like the beauty of it. It's like you're exploring your backyard, like what you said, like how some
Mm.
parts of LA don't even look like LA and like
Hmm.
that's I feel like a lot of people don't even explore where they live because
Hmm.
you're so busy with the day-to-day life. So it's like a nice way to
Hmm.
like escape and you're prioritizing your like time off, which is I think
Hmm.
helps, right? When you have this goal, you're like, okay,
Hmm.
well, that's my time off. I'm not gonna schedule like work or
Yeah.
think about work.
Yeah, and it's nice because, that's like a time that you totally unplug. I mean, like, besides me using the Seek app to identify creatures and plants, I'm like not looking at my phone when I'm hiking. I'm being fully present. And that's, I feel like, pretty rare for me. Even being at the climate cafe, like, everyone put their phones away, and I was like, man, this is probably the longest that I've not looked at my phone or laptop in a long time. It was only 3 hours long, but I was like, wow, I felt like fully present.
Yeah, I know, and it makes me excited to like start hiking again.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I love that. I love that you're doing that. And I wanted to talk about it because I think it's just like, again, interconnected with this like work that we're doing with nature and just,
Hmm.
yeah. And like even when you say that, you haven't checked your phone in that like period of time, like, um, kind of wanted to get into my next like kind of topic around eco anxiety and it even comes back to
Mm.
like the climate cafe, but like have you found it helping or do you experience eco anxiety and like how do you feel when you're out in nature and seeing like exploring.
Yeah, I definitely feel eco anxiety when I, see on the news or TikToks mostly, actually, not the news. I don't really watch the news.
Same.
But I saw this TikTok that was like, instead of saying that you heard of something on TikTok, start saying you read it somewhere, like you
I
read it in
have
the
to
New
do
York
that at
Times.
work because like nobody watches TikTok on my team. It's like great. You love being the youngest one there.
That's so funny. So, yeah, hearing about natural disasters and the IPCC reports, that definitely gives me some eco anxiety.
Yeah.
But I think actually working on climate change with people who also care about it does make me feel better. And
Mm-hmm.
doing things like being in nature makes me feel better. Also, I guess I did co-produce a documentary. I was telling you that I hadn't made anything since I
Yeah.
graduated, but I co-produced
I
a
remember
short
it. I remember.
documentary film.
Yeah, I remember reading
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's called Gen Z Mental Health Climate
Yeah.
Stories. And we're having an event in person in LA for Mental Health Action Day presented by the Climate Mental Health Network and Stranded Astronaut, which is the production company that worked on it.
Yeah.
And
Tara
it's,
and Max.
yeah,
Yeah.
Taya and Max.
Yeah. We
Yeah, they're
love them.
awesome.
Shout out to them.
Yes. Yeah, if you're listening, we love y'all. um, but we're creating an event that is going to have a screening of the film, and then we're going to have a panel with youth activists and a psychiatrist who can talk about that connection of mental health and climate change. We're going to have an art therapy table and plant-based food, and it'll just be a place where people can talk openly about all their anxieties around climate change. And so also organizing events like that
Yeah.
makes me feel better because I'm like
Mhm.
creating space for people to talk about their feelings and not feel as isolated and
Mhm.
lost in this climate work.
I agree. I've experienced that too. When I like leave an event or I leave like an initiative that we put together, and it's like you just feel so positive, and it, you know, like I think yeah, positive is the word, and it is healing, and I
Mhm.
think for me it's like when I really experience it is when the like climate disasters happen, like with the weather patterns and just like going out and
Mhm.
not like being able to do what you used to do, or seeing today's like kids not being able to have the same kind of
Mhm.
experiences you had, and the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's like I think there's moments where I'm like, oh my God, like it hits you, and like what you
Mhm.
said, reading the IPCC report and things like that, like when it's like my LinkedIn, I go on it, and it's like because I follow a lot of the climate like leaders and organizations, but it's like oh, it's just like a lot. And I'm like, okay, like, and even sometimes TikTok, like, not necessarily climate
Mhm.
related, but sometimes I see a lot of like the news, like, because now I think a lot of news, like, updates are going into the TikTok platform, and like,
Yeah.
it's just like depressing. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
how much you've heard about Vancouver, but Vancouver is just getting a little like sad, like, in terms of like our homeless population and just access to resources, murders, like violence, like it's just like growing, and it's like you see that
Mhm.
like I literally live in it, but then I go online and that's all I see, and it can get,
Mhm.
again, it's not eco anxiety, but it's still that consumption of like negative media, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it does. Sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna turn off my phone. I'm just gonna go in the nature and walk and take my dog,
Yeah.
and yeah. But no, thank you for sharing all that, because that is really, yeah. No, I think like focusing on the positive is like it's a
Yeah, and like
hard. It's
finding community. Yeah,
yeah,
finding other
yeah,
people who you can talk to about your feelings. And
yeah. Climate
yeah, and I think
cafes.
taking action makes me, yeah, taking action, like knowing
Yeah,
that I'm doing something good for the planet makes me feel better as
yeah.
well. Um I'm like debating telling you the story of my trip to Maui, because it's kind of sad, but it was definitely a moment of like eco anxiety. Should I tell?
Yeah, yeah. If you want
Okay,
to.
so
Now that you said it, you have
um,
to.
I know.
It's gonna be bothering me all day.
You're like, what happened on Maui?
No, I'm like
So,
Googling it.
um, so last year I took a trip to Maui, and uh, both my parents are raised on Maui. I still have all my grandparents live there and a lot of family there. And so ever since I was born, we would go visit Maui like once a year. And my favorite part of our trips was going to Ka'anapali Beach, and we would go snorkeling and see hundreds of different colorful fish, and we would, just like sit out on the beach and talk story all day. And this last time that I went, I remember I kicked off my slippers and was so excited to get on the sand. And it was so hot, like it was burning my feet. I had to put my slippers back on, and then we went snorkeling for a little while, and we came back to our beach towels to just lay out, and it was so unbearably hot. I was like, I need to go inside. Like, let's just go. And I picked up my Starbucks cup, and it had melted in the sand. Like it had
Oh
morphed
my
in the
gosh.
sand. It was that hot. And I know plastic is bad, but
Oh
yeah, it
my
was like
gosh.
melted in the sand, and I'd never seen that before. And I later I looked it up, and Maui had broken 5 heat records that month and was in a drought. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, this place that's so beautiful and so full of
Mm-hmm.
nature, and this place that I imagine taking my future kids to and future
Mm-hmm.
grandkids to might be somewhere that's too unbearably hot to enjoy as the effects of climate change get worse. And so that was definitely a moment where I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this is scary. But I I still do have hope that we will be able to, um, maybe if we
Yeah.
don't completely solve it, like every degree
Yeah.
matters. And so I definitely
Okay.
think that we we have the tools, and I think we can solve the
Yeah.
climate crisis. But it's, yeah, there are just certain moments where you're like, wow, this is why I do what I do.
Should I share mine? Should I share my like
Yeah, I
moment
want to.
where because I don't think this is like sharing like yeah, it's sad, but I don't think it's like depressing. I think it is again like healing, and like being able to talk in vulnerability and like hope that, even through our episode other people are hopefully inspired to also just speak up because we're not necessarily complaining or, should be afraid to like because I think yeah, we're trying so hard to be optimistic, but then there are moments that we should acknowledge. But yeah, my moment was I've had multiple. Obviously, I think I mentioned when it's like when you're firsthand experiencing like smoke season, like we literally it's called smoke season. How sad is that? Like we have forest fires and it's like, oh, it's smoke season. It's like that's not normal. Like it's never been like that
Mm,
until a few years ago. Where now every year it gets
mm,
so hot that like our trees burn down all around BC and
mm,
like anyways, but for me the moment that like I think I cried was due to eco anxiety was when my hometown was underwater, and that was in 2021, like November 2021. And I don't like my hometown is an hour away from downtown Vancouver. It's not like totally like out somewhere in the middle of nowhere, like remote place. Like it's the suburbs, like where a lot of families live and then commute to Vancouver. And we had floods, which I'm sure you probably heard of. I don't know if you did, but it's just like impacted a lot of the lower mainland in BC, and then going out into like the east, our Okanagan Valley, which they say is like the California of BC because it's all like sand hills and deserty and
mm,
yeah, the climate's very different, but it was just like all like floods and just like it rained so much and so many people lost their homes and like Abbotsford, which is my hometown, like was literally underwater, like part of it. And I was just like, oh my God, like that's where I grew up and that's where I would play and that's where I went to
yeah.
school and like I have family there and it's like we did our best and I think we really saw the value of community then where people from all over came together to like, collect supplies and donations and provide like housing and just do what we can to help all the people that were like affected and then be able to restore all that. But yeah, I was like, okay, now it's personal. Now it's
Yeah.
on. Like we it's not happening across the world in a third world
Mhm,
country. It's literally happening in our own backyards, and
mhm.
it's not even an exaggeration. And so yeah, I think that was my moment. I was like, oh
Yeah,
shit. Yeah.
that's so scary and, like, traumatic too, like,
Yeah. Like, and I mean,
having
like,
that
you
ex
know, I'm sure it was so much more like traumatic and scary for the people that were impacted. Like I cannot imagine if like I was living there and that happened. Like, but just be and then just feeling so helpless. It's like okay, I did I
Mhm.
and it was so cool. We got the whole film industry come together to like do like a drive, like a donation drive, because I was like how I because
Oh.
I felt so like helpless. I felt so
Uh-huh.
stuck. I was like, what do I do? Like, how can I? And so I was like, let me just like put gather as many resources as I can, and I just put the word out, and like
Mhm,
it just blew up because everybody's like, okay, like we there's nothing we can do but offer our support and resources
mhm.
and donations and all, and so that was like again community that came together. But yeah, I don't know if how you felt in that moment in Maui, but I felt like truly like single-handedly like helpless and alone, and I was like,
Mhm.
how do we fix the world? Like
Yeah. And so you were the one who organized the, like, donation drive and
it just
everything?
yeah, it accidentally like happened to just
Wow.
become a whole drive because I was like, oh, like that's my town, like that's and I
Mhm,
couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep all night. Like this it was like
mhm,
I think 1 2 weeks when it was just like the impact was real, and like everything stopped because they couldn't, like the bridges broke
mm,
down, like it was just like the floods were so powerful. Like we never experienced anything
mhm,
like that here. And so yeah, like nobody could transport like even getting essential needs anywhere was just like so difficult. And so yeah, I just couldn't sleep all night, and I woke up. I know it was even I think middle of the night where I was like I wrote an email to my organization, and I said, hey, like I'm gonna go like maybe end of the day and go do like drop off some things because there was a
mm,
I think like an app is where there's some really great people, like I think church folks and other community members came together and said, let's set up, like someone donated their space and said will start collecting and sending out resources by helicopter and stuff so you can bring
mhm,
resources here. So I was like, I'm gonna go do that, and I just like I don't know, I just put out an email to my whole organization in the middle of the night, and I was like, if anyone else wants to just drop it off at our office, I'll come pick it up. That
mhm.
email ended up getting circulated to like all industry members and unions and studios, and
Wow.
because they're like, oh, like you know if you want to also. And so it just ended up being like this whole day, and then my partner went to his work, and yeah, we ended up getting so much stuff and gift cards and stuff. So yeah, it wasn't like oh, I organized it. It was just kind of happened to like
Oh my
everybody was
gosh, look
like
at you're so powerful,
no.
Smiley. That's so cool.
No, but again, like after that too, I was like, okay, that's the least I could do, right? Like what else? Like I didn't feel like I could do anything else, and
Mhm,
yeah. But I think it comes back to like what we're saying about, um, you know, the actions that we contribute to and do in order to help like our own like eco anxiety and
mhm,
do our part in the world to the extent that we can, because when we feel that guilt, it's like okay, well we can't just change a policy overnight, or we can't just like
mhm,
whatever, but if we can do a small part, it does play into this bigger picture and impact. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's powerful stuff. Oh yeah, I'm glad we got to share that, we got to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
um so I coming back to the positive, like I just want to ask, like what is something that you're super proud of personally, of accomplishing or doing or have done, whether work
Yeah.
related or not, just
Mm. This is
big question.
I know it's a big question. This this sounds small, but I was proud of getting asked to speak at my alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
So just because I remember when I was in school, I loved having guest speakers, and I was kind of like, wow, I want to one day be a guest speaker at Chapman. And
Yeah.
so I am, I think it's not just like the fact that I have gotten asked to speak there. It's like I have I've gotten asked because I've been able to do a lot of cool things and work with a lot of cool people. And since I found so much value in, like, I guess, mentorship and stuff, I definitely want to be a mentor to someone else, or like
Mm-hmm.
maybe my story will inspire someone to do
Mm-hmm.
the same work that I do, or something like that. And so that's something that I've been happy with recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I
then
love that.
I think another thing that's not necessarily that I'm proud of personally, but more proud of, like, or excited for the whole climate and film space is, there was recently an article in Forbes with like the 68 climate leaders
Mm-hmm.
that are changing the film and
Yes.
TV industry. And me and my team got mentioned. And so
Yeah.
that was exciting just because I, besides legitimizing like the space itself, I think for me personally, I remember when I would talk about what I was studying in school, and a lot of people who are outside my college were like, oh, that's a weird combination, environmental science and film. And so now being
Mm-hmm.
on that list, I'm like, wow, see, it actually worked
Dang.
out. Like,
Full
it's
circle
not weird.
moment.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, congrats on that. I saw that.
Thank you.
Amazing. And also just like you are an inspiration and you are inspiring many, including myself. And I hope more and more people have the privilege of hearing you speak and learning
Oh.
from you. And yeah, I think this is just you're just getting started. Like I think there's so much more in store and like you're gonna accomplish big things and it's just yeah, thank you for everything that you have been doing for the community, for film, for the environment and just being you.
Oh. Thank you. And thank you to you as well. I just heard this awesome story about all that you did when the floods happened, and I'm like so inspired by
Oh,
that.
yeah, that was just like the accidental, but it worked out well. Good story. Yeah, can you like imagine if like we did all that and then they're like, "Oh, sorry, you can't even get this stuff out there." That would be so sad.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm glad everything worked out that day, but yeah, I just hope that you know that that event those events don't repeat. Like I really hope that people learn and realize that it is directly climate related and we got to get our act together so that we don't have to experience those events and yeah again. So it's just all I hope.
I know, it's like if we could have this community to prevent it rather than after it's already happened, that we all come
Yeah,
together, then that would be
yeah,
great.
exactly. I think that's what's frustrating about sometimes about like being in this space is that like why are we waiting until after all the damage has been done to help clean up the mess and why we have the like you said that too, we have the tools, we have the science, we have the resources, we have the people and the leaders, like it's all there. So like why is it taking so long for that pressure to be applied and the urgency to be you know I guess reflected in all the just the bigger decisions that are in the hands of the more powerful people. But yeah. Anyways, we'll move on. I just want to like, because Earth Day, I believe when this episode comes out, it will be Earth Day or around Earth Day. And so, what's your advice or tips you would give to people for Earth Day this year?
Ooh,
Sorry, my
that's a
dog's
good
in the
question.
back.
Oh.
My dog. Yeah, sorry.
So I am hosting a watch party with some friends who don't work in climate, and we are going to follow this activity booklet that I supported the creation of at Netflix, where it's actually a family Earth Week watch party thing. So it's mostly geared towards kids, but we're still gonna follow it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna watch a few episodes of Unstable, which is this comedy series about a biotech company where they're trying to. It's Rob Lowe plays the CEO, and then his son is another main character, and they're trying to create carbon sequestering concrete, which actually
Mm-hmm.
exists in real life.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like working on that, and then there's just like comedic other
Mm-hmm.
things happening. And so we're gonna screen that, and then I'm gonna make a fully vegan dinner for everyone.
Oh,
And we're gonna do some activities that are in the activity booklet. We created a board game that has kind of like trivia questions. So if you want to move up on the board, you have to answer simple questions about sustainability. We have recipes of how to reduce your food waste and like use orange and lemon peels to make sour candy, and
yeah.
a nature scavenger hunt, and yeah, just small things like that. But
Oh my
I think,
goodness. This
yeah.
is so cool.
Yeah, and you can download it on oh my gosh, I need to find, if you look up To Doom
Uh-huh.
Family Earth Week, you'll be able to find um the booklet, and everyone can
Okay.
download it. There's
We'll share
also
that.
right now, yeah, I realized I was going to promote the Laura Prepon giveaway, but that's going to be done by the time Earth Day comes around, so you can cut
Yeah.
this part out. But yeah, so I'm, yeah, hosting just something at my house to get a conversation about sustainability with people who don't work in sustainability. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that'll be fun. And yeah, I don't know, just finding something fun to do with friends. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's a something as simple as a beach cleanup or screening some
Mm-hmm.
kind of climate related show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Eating plant-based for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, things
Or
like
every
that.
day.
Or every day. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
support if you want to
amazing.
go vegan.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. You know what? I have all these now ideas of what I should do too, because I didn't think about that. It's been so like busy that I haven't even
Yeah.
thought about like how to fully enjoy and celebrate Earth on Earth Day. It's been like
Yeah, I mean, and I know people who work in climate that are like, I'm not going to go to any Earth Day events. I'm just going to like fully unplug, be in
chill.
the forest. And
Yeah.
so you can also
Yeah.
do that. Like, you
That's
don't
what
have
I
to do
think I might do.
anything.
Yeah, and because I think people in climate, like, you gotta be extra kind to them this month because, like, the burnout is real. Like, oh gosh, I've been
Yeah.
seeing a lot of, like, friends and also just colleagues in the industry that are in the climate space and, like, just go, go, go. And it's like, oh my God, all I
Mhm.
can think about is I hope they're, like, resting and taking care of themselves because I feel like it's great that so many companies, organizations, events are like, tuned in. I think we talked about this before we started recording, but there a lot are tuned in now because it's Earth Month and it's like the theme and you're like doing all these initiatives, but I think it's so important that people realize that, you should be doing this all year round and have these
Mhm.
discussions all year round and these initiatives and to not feel like it all needs to be crammed in this 1 month or 1 day and but it is a good time to acknowledge all the work that's being done and celebrating earth and nature and yeah,
Mhm.
that's amazing. Okay, thank you, Laurel. So I wanted to end it off with current faves. So this new segment or
Ooh.
segment, I don't know. Thing I want to
Mhm.
start doing in season 3 is at the end just kind of like a what do you call it? Fast like answer kind of whatever. Clearly, I don't know
Okay.
what to call this, but it's current fave. So, yeah, I'll
Okay.
ask you, and then you just give me your current fave. Yeah,
Okay.
very very easy. Okay, favorite movie or show. So, sorry, let me rephrase that. This is to everybody watching. We're just this is a new thing. Okay, I'll just say movie or show.
Right now I've been watching Good Trouble. It's the spinoff from The Fosters, which I grew up watching, and so it's fun because the two main girls, well, I guess now it's one, it like moved out to LA and they're, like finding or like putting down roots and stuff. And so it's been fun since I also like moved to LA and I'm also like,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I've been loving that show.
Oh, Good Trouble. Where is it on? Is it on a?
It's on Hulu.
Okay, cool. We don't have Hulu in Canada, so damn.
What? Oh my
Yeah, did you
gosh.
know? So we have Crave that I don't have a subscription to, but apparently Crave has a lot of Hulu shows on there, but it's like I
Oh,
have like 5 billion
interesting.
streaming subscriptions,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know it's such a crime. Okay, music or song.
I love Noah Kahan. Have
Oh
you
my
heard of
God,
him?
yes, I love him.
I'm gonna see him in concert in a few months. I'm so
Wait,
excited.
when? When's the concert?
I want to say in either in summertime or fall.
Oh, okay. If it's in
It's in
June and I'm
LA.
there, I will come. Because
Yeah,
I
I'll look into when it is.
my boss was in LA and just in the fall last year, and then she's like, I went to this concert, it was so good, I can't remember the name, and then she sent me the name, it's Noah Kahan, and I was like, oh my God, I
She
love
couldn't
his
remember the
music.
name.
She's like, I don't know who it was, but it was like so cool and so good. I don't think she knew about it. But she's like, I was like, I'm jealous. But yeah, if he's there in June and I'm there, sign me up. Um, food. Favorite food.
Oh,
Mm.
I have been obsessed with Stage's cauliflower pizza, which I think you had
Oh yeah,
at
it
the
was so
Hollywood Climate
good.
Summit,
Everyone
the
inhaled
buffalo
that.
cauliflower pizza. Oh, it's so good. But
Oh,
the closest stage to me is like 20 minutes away, and the parking is stressful. So it's a treat
right.
when I get it.
You know what? Sometimes that's the good thing though, because then it's like a treat where it's like having it.
Yeah, I'm not wasting my money.
Yeah, or just having access to it all the time. And I
Yeah.
think so. That's yeah. I remember that pizza was really good. Um, and then place, favorite place.
Ooh,
Right.
I love Griffith Park. It's so funny
Um,
because when I would visit there, when I was in college, which was an hour away from LA, we only would go to the observatory
mm-hmm,
part of it, and I
mm-hmm.
didn't realize how big it is. Now I've been on like several different hikes in Griffith
Nice.
Park, and there's also a picnic area that I love to go to, and sometimes just like lay out a picnic blanket and draw. And
Oh,
so, yeah, I that's been my happy place recently.
oh, I love that. Love to hear it. Amazing. Okay, that's all I have on my faves, current faves.
Can I ask you what your current faves are?
Oh my gosh,
Because
the
this is your
tables
first
have
segment of
turned.
it.
Ah, okay, you know what? Because it's the first time we're doing it, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, favorite movie or show? I just watched The Night Agent and it was filmed in Vancouver and
Oh,
we have a fundraiser going on right now, Real Earth Day. So if anyone wants to donate, and they won the Real Earth Day fundraiser by raising the most funds. And the show was so good. Have you seen it?
I have actually, because yeah, I heard that there was an environmental plot in
Yeah.
it somehow, and so people were like, watch it, and so I did watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
it was really good and I think it just got renewed for season 2 because it was like the
Oh,
I
cool.
just read somewhere it was the most watched show in Netflix history. And I was like, "What?
Oh,
That's a
wow.
surprise." I mean
I
it
think
was
I
so
heard
good.
that that was like it was on track to do that. I didn't know it actually hit that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I only read one thing, so I don't know if I hope it is accurate, but it was so good and I was like, "Damn, like it's filmed in Vancouver. Like I recognize the streets in the back and like I
Wow.
mean there's another show that filmed and I'm not gonna name it, but it was around the same time as Night Agent and I watched it. It was like pretty bad. So
Oh
it's just
no.
funny, but it was so good. I'm gonna assume that they had a big budget because it's like and a good like
Yeah.
production team. So shout out to the Night
Mhm.
Agent. So that and then I just also just watched like finished it yesterday. Um it was with Ali Wong, that new series,
Beef?
Beef. That one was it was like so
Oh,
weird but so good, you know? I was like
I need to watch it. My coworkers have been telling me about it.
yeah, I like. So I watch shows with my partner sometimes, like on like Night Agent we watch together, but it takes so long to finish shows with him because I also have to wait for him to be home and he works a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Beef I just started myself, and then he's like, "Oh, I heard it's really good," and like so he's gonna watch it too now separately. But
Mm-hmm.
it was really good. It's artsy. It was weird.
Oh,
All
okay.
Asian cast, which is like incredible, like
That's
just
so cool.
so beautiful. But such a weird show. So. Yeah.
I have
Um,
to pull up, I know Netflix has like such genius marketing. I need to look up what it said, but they had a billboard that had to do, oh, here it was beef. So delicious, even vegans will love it.
oh my God, that's funny. Netflix marketing.
That's what
Shout out.
they, yeah.
Yeah, and this is not my current fave, but I just because we're on the topic of TV shows, I'm a I'm a professional binge watcher because I just but I just started this new show. Oh, what was it called? Selena Gomez, and so it's on Disney. It's there's 2 seasons. I have it here. Let me pull it up.
Oh.
And it's really good so far. I think we just watched one episode yesterday, but I'm gonna just pull it up.
Wait, it's a documentary or narrative?
No, it's like a comedy, like TV series. Only Murders in the Building.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
it's
heard of
really
it.
good. The attention to detail and production design and just it's really good. I mean, I only watched one episode, but I like it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was yeah. So music. Um, you know what? I haven't been listening to a specific artist right now, but I've been putting on lo-fi Bollywood music on Spotify because
Oh.
it's like they just take I don't know what specific like if it's a one person doing it, but they just like yeah, it's always like Bollywood music but lo-fi and calm and just like chill and it's just like I don't know. I've been vibing with that.
Oh, nice.
'Cause yeah, and then I think yeah, I would say that. So that's more of a playlist. Food. My favorite food right now? I don't know. I've been like craving pizza a lot. So
You're like, I want the sage pizza that
I now
is
I
in
want it.
LA.
Yeah, now that you brought up pizza and I had pizza last night. I just got frozen pizza last night, but um and I had sushi today, so I don't know. Just, yeah, I don't know. Place? Um I've been loving going to yoga. I just started doing yoga like a few weeks ago, and like
Mhm.
now I'm just like always looking forward to it. So I think a place would be
Oh,
at the yoga studio because I
yeah.
in classes because it's just like been so good for like winding down, just getting in
Mhm.
tune with my body, learning a new thing because it's like I'm learning, and I think it's just yeah when you find this new activity like I used to love like boxing and like do all those like high intensity kind of like things like and now I'm just more I'm in my chill phase in life right now. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would say that yoga studio.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for coming on the show and being our season 3 first guest of season 3.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we got to chat about all our we covered a lot of
Oh
topics
my
today.
God, we did. Like, I don't even know what the description is going to be of this episode. It's going to be like an essay. All the things. If you want to learn
Everything
about.
everywhere all at
Yeah.
once.
Oh my God. Speaking of great movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hope people that watch this, thank you to anyone that, not watched, listened to this. Thank you to anyone that listened and I hope it was very insightful and inspiring and yeah, always a great time chatting with you, Laurel. And I can't wait to see you in person
Yes.
again. 2 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so excited to see you too.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, well, I hope you take care and I hope you have the best Earth Day. And yeah, we'll talk soon again.
Thank you so much.